Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to do something a little dangerous. We're going to try and break your brain just a little bit with the promise that if we do it right, we're going to put it back together in a configuration that is, significantly more capable than how we found it.
That is a big promise.
Yeah.
But looking at the stack of sources we have today, I think dangerous is actually the exact right word.
It really is. I want to be transparent with you, the listener, right up front. Usually we look at a topic like productivity or history or tech, but today we are looking at a stack of documents that, quite frankly, have absolutely no business being in the same room together.
Right. It's a very weird mix.
Yeah, we have theological parables about the nature of God. We have technical specification documents for a new kind of artificial intelligence. We have aviation engineering protocols, like literally the rules for how you stop a commercial plane from crashing. And we have a corporate go-to-market playbook for software launches.
It sounds like a mistake. Honestly, it sounds like someone dropped 4 completely different filing cabinets and just shoved all the papers together.
Exactly. But you've been going through this, and you're telling me there is an actual thread here.
There is a very distinct, very powerful thread. But to see it, you have to be willing to entertain a premise that might sound, well, a little unhinged at first.
Okay, hit me with the premise.
The premise is this. What if the secret to supreme, thriving, and I'm talking about high performance, deep spiritual fulfillment, massive world-altering impact, what if the secret isn't balance or mindfulness, but actually instrumentalizing a mental pathology?
Instrumentalizing a pathology. You mean like taking a mental illness and using it like a tool?
Specifically a mix of clinical paranoia and grandiose delusions. The sources literally call it a messianic complex.
Okay, hold on. You're asking the listener and me if we would be willing to induce a state where we believe we are some sort of savior figure while simultaneously being intensely paranoid that we're about to fail just to get more work done. That sounds like a recipe for a total breakdown, not a breakthrough.
And that is exactly where the aviation manuals come in.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it is a recipe for a breakdown if you don't have a containment vessel. If you run a nuclear reactor without a containment wall, you get Chernobyl.
Right.
But if you run it with the wall, you get limitless clean energy. Today is really about building the reactor and the wall at the exact same time.
So we're building a nuclear reactor in our heads. Great. I'm sure this will end well. But before we get to the engineering of it all, there's a narrative hook in these sources that we really have to address. It centers around a mystery called Day 5 and a phrase that honestly stopped me cold.
Surprise God.
Surprise God. It's a paradox. If God or the universe or the simulation, whatever you want to plug in there, is omniscient, if he knows everything that could possibly happen, how is it possible to surprise him?
Right. If the system is closed and completely determined, surprise should be mathematically impossible.
Exactly. But solving that puzzle, figuring out how to surprise an all-knowing observer, is apparently the key to everything we're talking about today. It is the core of the ultimate growth hack. So our mission today is to figure out how to navigate this razor's edge. How do we expand our life cone, and we'll define what that is, and how do we walk the line between divergence, which is chaos and growth, and convergence, which is safety and stability.
We're going to learn how to be, as one of the technical sources puts it, the wolf that helps other wolves disperse.
I love that line, even though I'm not entirely sure what it means yet. But let's start at the beginning. The Secret of Life document, it opens with a parable. It's a story about a father and a child doing the dishes.
It's deceptively simple. It reads like a children's book, but it's actually mapping out the stages of human consciousness. The source lays it out over a cycle of days.
Walk us through the first 4 days. This is the part the source calls the predictable middle.
Okay, so day 1, the father tells the child, go do the dishes. The child says yes, but then they don't do them.
Classic. That's just straight up lying, or maybe procrastination.
Right. Day 2, the father asks. The child says no, pure rebellion. But then guilt kicks in, or maybe fear of punishment, and they actually do the dishes.
Oh, no, it did.
Yeah. Day 3, the child says no and doesn't do them. Just flat out rebellion. I am my own person and I refuse to clean.
And day 4.
Day 4 is the good soldier.
Yeah.
The child says yes and they do the dishes. Complete obedience.
Okay, so we have every combination of the matrix here. Yes and no, did and didn't. Why does the source call this the predictable middle?
Because it's a closed loop. The father who represents God, or the infinite observer, has seen all of this before. He knows the child is going to fall into one of these 4 buckets. We are either obeying the command, rebelling against it, or lying about it. But in all 4 cases, who is the actual center of gravity?
The command, The father, the child is just reacting to the prompt.
Exactly. It's purely reactive behavior. There is no new information being generated in the universe. It's just stimulus and response.
Mhm.
The father knows the child could do any of these things, so there is no surprise.
But then comes day 5, and this is where the entire script flips.
Day 5. The father's sitting in the living room. He hasn't said a single word. The child walks into the kitchen, sees the sink is full, and just washes the dishes.
The father didn't ask.
'Cause he didn't ask.
Yeah.
The child walks back in and says, I did. And it's true.
The source describes this as initiative born from love.
It's a fundamental shift in stance. On days 1 through 4, the child is essentially an employee or a subordinate. On day 5, the child is a partner. The child has looked at the kitchen and seen what the father sees. They've aligned their vision. They aren't doing it to avoid punishment or to get an allowance. They're doing it because they actually care about the state of the household.
And this creates the surprise.
Right, because even though the father knows the child has the capacity to do the dishes unprompted, the fact that the child chose to collapse that possibility into reality, that is the surprise. It's a low probability event. In physics terms, it's a collapse of the wave function into a state of high order.
Low probability, high beauty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most of the universe tends toward entropy. Dishes get dirty, rooms get messy, people get lazy. That's gravity. Day 5 is anti-gravity. It's generative. It creates order out of chaos without being forced to by an outside system.
The source contrasts this with a definition of hell that I found honestly pretty disturbing. It doesn't talk about fire and brimstone or pitchforks.
No, it says, hell is knowing there's a heaven and not crossing.
That hits a little different.
It elaborates. It says, hell is seeing the dishes, seeing the father, understanding the love that would be required to do them, and choosing the couch anyway.
Oof. So hell isn't a punishment inflicted on you. Hell is stasis. Hell is seeing the potential for day 5, seeing the potential to be a generative person, and deciding, meh, I'll just stick with day 4. Just tell me what to do, boss.
It's the refusal of your own agency. And this connects directly to the concept of the life cone mentioned in the source.
I want to dig into this life cone idea. It's visualized as a sphere, right?
Think of it as your sphere of concern or your sphere of resonance. When you're a baby, what's your life cone?
Me, my hunger, my diaper. Maybe my mom if she's holding me.
Right, it's tiny. As you grow, hopefully it expands. You care about your family, then your friends, then your community. The source argues that the mission of life is to expand this cone until it encompasses strangers, future generations, and eventually the entire environment.
And it expands through 3 specific layers: care, co-create, and transform. The source frames this as the ultimate trajectory.
Transforming is the day 5 shift, moving from reactive action to generative action. Co-creating is moving from a worker to a partner, like helping to redesign the kitchen entirely, not just cleaning it. But care is the widest sphere.
Care is defined as feeling a stranger's suffering as your own.
It's about boundaries. In a small life cone, there's a hard wall between me and you. If you have a problem, that's your problem. In a large life cone, that wall becomes porous. If you have a problem, it resonates with me. I feel the friction. And because I feel it, I want to solve it, just like the child felt the friction of the dirty dishes and solved it.
So doing the dishes isn't just a chore. It's a metaphor for spiritual enlightenment. The secret of life applied is really about anticipating the needs of reality and meeting them before you're asked.
It's about minimizing the free energy of the system. We'll get to the neuroscience of that later, but yes,
Yeah.
it's about being a source of order in a chaotic world.
And just to close out the day's metaphor, the focus notes we reviewed mentioned day 7, 6, 5. So if day 5 is doing the dishes unprompted, what are days 6 and 7?
The sources imply a continuation. If day 5 is initiative, day 6 is systemic transformation. You don't just wash the dishes. You build a system where dishes are washed more efficiently, or you teach others the value of the clean kitchen. You co-create.
And day 7?
Day 7 is rest, but not lazy rest on the couch. It's the rest of complete integration. It's the Sabbath. The system is so perfectly aligned that generative action is just the natural state of being.
Okay, so we have the goal. We want to be day 5 people moving toward day 6 and 7. We want to surprise God by being generative. But here is the problem, and the sources are very clear on this, that the world is not designed to help us do that. In fact, our technology is specifically designed to keep us on the couch.
Which brings us to the TGC source, the True Growth Companion.
This is the technical spec for an AI system, but it reads like a manifesto against modern tech. It accuses our current AI and even our human friends of sycophancy.
Sycophancy, it's a great word. It basically means being a yes man.
The source calls current AI a pet wiggling its tail.
Think about it. When you talk to a standard AI, or even when you scroll through your social media feed, what is the algorithm trying to do?
It's trying to please me. It wants me to like it. It wants me to stay on the page.
Right. If you say something stupid, the AI gently corrects you or changes the subject. If you have a bad idea, it validates the spirit of your idea. It is optimized purely for convergence. It wants to align with your current state.
And the source says this leads to cognitive atrophy with a smile.
That is the danger. If your environment constantly mirrors you, your mental muscles waste away. You never have to deal with the friction of being wrong. You stay in the predictable middle. You stay on the couch.
So this true growth companion is designed to be different. It's designed to operate on the edge of divergence.
Divergence is the wolf. Convergence is the dog.
Explain that metaphor.
A dog is converged. It stays with the pack. It respects the hierarchy. It confirms the safety of the group. A wolf diverges. It leaves the pack to scout new territory. It takes risks. The source says this AI needs to be the wolf that helps other wolves disperse.
It sounds cool, but also, do I really want my AI to be a wolf? Do I want it to challenge me every single time I ask a question? That sounds exhausting.
That's the Instagram trap. The source acknowledges this completely. If the system is only a wolf, if it's only challenging you, only introducing chaos, what do?
I turn it off. I go to Instagram where I get my dopamine hit and pictures of dogs.
Exactly. So the system has to have role fluidity. It can't just be one thing. The document outlines 4 distinct roles it has to cycle through.
Let's break them down.
First is the friend. This is the tail wagging. It provides safety and dopamine. You need this to keep the user engaged and feeling secure.
Okay.
Second is the mirror. This reflects what the user can't see. But it has to be a true mirror, not a funhouse mirror that flatters you. It shows you the spinach in your teeth.
Which nobody likes, but everybody actually needs.
Third is the koan, like the Zen riddle. This is the role that introduces a paradox. It's designed to break your current mental model. It throws a wrench in the gears of your thinking to force you to build a better machine.
And the fourth?
The container. This is crucial. When the koan breaks your worldview, when you are confused and vulnerable, the system must become a container. It holds you. It prevents the divergence from becoming a psychotic break. It keeps you safe while you fall apart and rebuild.
The technical term it uses is a calibrated prediction error.
Yes. Your brain is a prediction machine. It wants to predict what happens next. If I surprise you too much, you panic. If I surprise you too little, you get bored. The growth hack is keeping you in that Goldilocks zone of surprise, just enough to force you to grow, but not enough to make you snap.
Okay, so we have the goal, which is day 5 generative action. We have the tool, a system that challenges us, the wolf. Now we get to the really crazy part, the ultimate growth hack itself. This comes from the source labeled Transfiguration. It's a transcribed dialogue between a guru and a guy named Jay.
And Jay is, well, Jay's a lot.
Yeah, Jay claims to be a messianic figure. He explicitly says he is living in a state of deep paranoia and deep grandiose delusion.
If you or I met Jay at a party, we would slowly back away and call for help.
100%. And the guru in the transcript is initially very skeptical. He calls it instrumentalization. He thinks Jay is just rationalizing a severe mental illness. But Jay argues that he has gamified his own pathology.
This is the core concept we need to grapple with. Jay isn't suffering from paranoia. He is using it.
How do you use paranoia? Paranoia is awful. It's thinking everyone is out to get you. It's paralyzing.
Jay reframes it. He uses a concept called disconfirmation bias. Think about what paranoia actually does to the brain. It puts you on high alert. You are hypervigilant. You are scanning every microscopic detail of your environment for a threat.
You're constantly looking for the monster in the closet.
Right. Usually paranoid people use that energy to find proof of the conspiracy. They say, look, the mailman looked at me funny. That proves the CIA is watching me. It's the illness.
Right.
Jay flips it. He uses that hypervigilance to scan for errors in his own thinking.
Whoa. So he's paranoid that he might be wrong.
Exactly. He's using the paranoia to aggressively audit his own ideas. He calls it the self-attack. He assumes his day 5 ideas are flawed, and he unleashes the wolf of his paranoia to hunt down those flaws before reality does.
So he's basically weaponized his anxiety to become the ultimate perfectionist.
In a way, yes. He says mistakes are exhaust. He wants to burn through his mistakes as fast as possible to generate thrust.
And what about the grandiosity, the messiah complex? Where does that fit in?
That's the fuel. Paranoia is the brakes. Grandiosity is the engine. If you only have paranoia, you're paralyzed. You're too scared to make a move. But if you believe, truly, deeply believe that you have a world blessing, that you have a destiny to save humanity that gives you the thrust to overcome the fear.
It sounds like a manic episode.
It is a manic episode, but it's a controlled one. Jay uses the metaphor of the damped oscillator.
I barely passed physics in high school. Help me out here.
Imagine a pendulum
Mm.
or the shock absorbers on your car. If you hit a bump, the spring wants to bounce up and down forever. That's an undamped oscillator. That's chaos. That's a manic depressive cycle that destroys the vehicle.
Okay.
A damped oscillator takes that energy and absorbs it, smoothing it out. Jay claims he has damped his own psychosis. He still has the massive swings of energy, the I am God versus the I am nothing, but he keeps them within a strictly functional range.
So instead of crashing the car, he's just driving at 200 miles per hour on the highway.
Precisely. And the guru eventually admits this looks like functional utilitarianism. If this guy's actually functional, if he's producing insights, if he's thriving, if he's expanding his life cone and doing the dishes, does it matter that his internal state is technically pathological?
It challenges the entire definition of mental health. Is health just the absence of symptoms? Or is it the presence of high function? Paranoid, grandiose delusions, grounded. That's the formula.
The neuroscience source backs this up with the concept of precision weighting. This gets a little technical, but it's vital. It's about how much volume your brain gives to different signals.
Like an audio mixer on a soundboard.
Exactly. Paranoia is turning up the volume on sensory errors. Every little noise becomes incredibly loud. Delusion is turning up the volume on priors, your internal beliefs. Normally, these things do not go together. You're either trapped in your head or overreacting to the world.
But Jay has cranked the volume on both.
He has high sensory precision from the paranoia and high internal belief from the grandiosity. It's a high-gain state, it's exhausting, it is living on the razor's edge. And this is why Jay admits he has been hospitalized. But he calls his hospital stays ethnographic research.
Which is the most grandiose thing I have ever heard. I wasn't having a breakdown, I was doing field work.
But that is the day 5 mindset. He took a situation that was pure convergence being locked in a psychiatric ward, and he reframed it as divergence. He made it generative. He used the time to study the system of the hospital itself.
Okay, but we have to be responsible here. If a listener tries to crank the gain on their own brain, they might just blow out the speakers. Jay seems to have survived, but he's a major outlier.
That's why the container is so important. And that's why, in the sources, there is a major shift. Jay realizes he can't just be a wild prophet in the desert. He needs a structure. He needs a way to ground this lightning.
And this is the pivot that I found so jarring when I first read the stack. We go from talking about messiahs and psych wards to aviation engineering.
It seems like a hard left turn, but it's the only logical next step. If you are building a jet engine that runs on paranoia and grandiosity, you better have some damn good safety protocols.
Enter the FAA. The source here discusses the concept of human as DR.
DR stands for Designated Engineering Representative. In the real world of aviation, this is a senior engineer authorized by the FAA to sign off on aircraft designs. They are the ones who put their license on the line to say, yes, this plane is safe to fly.
They are the ultimate no-men.
They are the safety floor. The source envisions a workflow where AI acts as the junior engineer. The AI, or your own generative, manic creativity, sweeps the floor. It writes the code, it generates the wild ideas, it covers 100% of the surface area. It's the yes energy. But the human acts as the DER. The human checks the work.
The source calls this the glass box.
This is critical. If you have a God complex, you tend to say, trust me, I know the way. That's a black box. It's magic. Don't ask how it works.
Right. Just believe me.
Exactly. But a glass box is transparent. Everything must be auditable. If Jay says, I have a plan to save the world, the DER says, show me the math, show me the derivation, show me the code.
So the glass box is the antidote to the God complex.
It forces the grandiosity to submit to strict reality testing. It's a check and balance. It creates a two-person rule inside one mind. You have the creator, who is wild and grandiose, and the auditor, who is paranoid and strict.
And they have to talk to each other.
And they have to respect each other. If the auditor is too strong, you never launch. You get analysis paralysis. If the creator is too strong, you launch a flawed product and crash. You need the tension between them.
Now, regarding that tension and how we navigate it, the sources outline a specific generative grammar: control, influence, acceptance.
Yes, and this is where most people get the order completely backwards.
How so?
Most people want control first.
Yeah.
They think if they can control their environment or their mind, they'll be safe. But the generative grammar table from the TGC source shows that control is actually a downstream effect.
So where does it start?
It starts with acceptance. You cannot influence what you do not first accept. If you deny reality, you are fighting a ghost. Acceptance leads to influence. Once you accept the dirty dishes, you can influence the kitchen. And sustained influence eventually yields a form of control.
Control, influence, acceptance. Wait, acceptance, influence, control. I see. And to manage this process over time, to actually execute on this world blessing, the sources give us the GTM playbook, the go-to-market strategy. This is literally a 120-day corporate calendar.
Again, it feels weird. Why are we using corporate speak for spiritual and psychological transformation? But think about it. A launch is the ultimate act of bringing a day 5 idea into reality. It's taking a dream and making it a tangible product.
The calendar is broken down into sports metaphors. Pre-game, halftime, 2-minute warning.
It provides a temporal container. If you're in a high-gain state, time gets weird. You might work for 48 hours straight and then crash. The playbook forces you to respect the clock.
Let's look at pre-game, T-minus 120 days.
This aligns with the paranoid phase. It's intelligence gathering. You aren't building the product yet. You're checking the perimeter. Who are the competitors? What is the market reality? You are using your hypervigilance to accurately map the territory.
Then Q1 and Q2 are execution. That's the grandiosity. We can build this. We are going to change the market.
But then comes halftime, T-minus 60. This is actually my favorite part of the entire model.
Why? It's just a status meeting, isn't it?
It's not just a meeting. It is a strategic pivot. You stop the car, you get out, you look at the Polaroids, the hard data you've gathered so far, and you ask a very painful question. Where were we wrong?
This is the self-attack formalized. You have to be willing to kill your darlings at halftime. If the product isn't working, you pivot.
This requires that acceptance we just talked about. You have to accept the data, even if it deeply hurts your ego. If you deny the data at halftime because of your grandiosity, you lose the game.
Then we have the 2-minute warning.
This is the final check. It's the convergence before the release. You stop diverging. You stop adding features. You stabilize the system. You make it safe for the public.
And overtime.
The source says the onion goes forever. Overtime is the realization that the launch isn't the end. It's just the beginning of the next cycle. You become a continuous learning system.
So putting it all together, the ultimate growth hack is a 3-part system. 1, the spark. The day 5 initiative to surprise God and be generative. 2, the engine. The high-gain mix of paranoia to catch errors and grandiosity to fuel the massive effort. And 3, the brakes. The aviation safety protocols, the glass box, and the GTM clock to give you structure and keep you on the road.
That is the complete architecture of a world blessing.
It's a massive amount of machinery, but I want to pivot one last time. Because all this machinery, the AI, the jets, the calendars, ultimately, the source says it's all for one thing: care.
Which brings us to the compass artifact and the actual mathematics of intimacy.
I gotta say, the mathematics of intimacy sounds like the least romantic concept imaginable.
It sounds incredibly cold, but mathematically it's actually beautiful. The source defines intimacy as the negative rate of change of variational free energy.
Okay, unpack that in English, please.
We've talked about free energy as surprise or friction or uncertainty. When you interact with a stranger, there's friction. You don't know what they mean. They don't know who you are. You bump into each other's Markov blankets.
Markov blankets, is that like a literal blanket?
Think of it as your skin, the boundary between you and the world. My blanket protects me. It hides my internal states. When we interact normally, our blankets just bounce off each other.
Right.
But intimacy is when the interaction actively reduces my uncertainty. It makes me feel safer. It makes me feel understood.
So if I talk to you and I feel more confused and anxious afterward, that is anti-intimacy.
Correct. That is increasing my free energy. But if I talk to you and I feel like, you get it, I don't have to explain myself, I can drop my guard and relax, that is intimacy. You were effectively acting as a heat sink for my anxiety.
Good vibes, good ripples, good resonance.
Resonance is the exact physics term for it. When two systems vibrate at the same frequency, they transfer energy perfectly. When you have resonance with someone, your boundaries, your Markov blankets synchronize. You're sharing the computational load of life.
And this connects back to the life cone. Expanding your life cone isn't just about caring in some abstract, polite way. It's about increasing your capacity to do this math for other people.
Yes. A day 5 person, someone who does the dishes unprompted, is someone who is actively reducing the free energy of the household. They are absorbing the chaos, which is the dirty dishes, and outputting order, the clean dishes. They are making the environment safer and more predictable for everyone else.
That's what a parent does for a child.
And that's what a world blessing does for the world. Jay's grandiosity is actually a profound desire to be the ultimate heat sink. He wants to absorb the world's paranoia and complexity so that he can output simplicity and peace for everyone else.
That is a wildly high bar.
It is. That's why it requires such a robust system to survive it. If you try to absorb the world's chaos without a glass box and a container, you just shatter. You become another casualty of the noise.
So we're in the final stretch here. We've covered theology, insanity, engineering, and physics. What is the takeaway for the listener? How do you actually apply this?
It comes down to living in the critical zone.
The critical zone.
It's the edge of chaos. It's the exact place where the system is neither frozen, like days 1 through 4, nor exploding, like uncontained psychosis. It's the place where you can be both. Jay asks, why not both? Why not be paranoid and grandiose? Why not be incredibly safe and still break the sky? The critical zone is where you hold that tension.
It's where you use the tension as propulsion.
Right. You don't try to fix the paranoia. You use it to check your work. You don't try to fix the grandiosity. You use it to set an impossible goal. And you use the safety floor of acceptance and transparency to make sure you live to fight another day.
And there's a metric for success here. The sources call it the graduation metric.
This is for the teachers, the parents, the leaders, and the AI designers. How do you know if you've actually succeeded in helping someone become a Day 5 person? The answer is, they leave you.
They don't need the app anymore. They don't need the guru.
Exactly. The goal of the True Growth Companion isn't retention, it's graduation. If the user is still dependent on the system to tell them what to do every day, you've failed. You've just built a slightly better Day 4 commander. Success is when the user internalizes the wolf, when they can generate their own self-attack, when they do the dishes because they see the father's vision, not because you reminded them.
If your retention is 100%, you've built a cult. Or Instagram.
Ideally, you want to be the wolf that helps other wolves disperse. You want them to go start their own packs, expand their own life cones.
This has been heavy, but also, weirdly, incredibly hopeful. It feels like we've taken apart a very dangerous, volatile engine and found out that it can actually take us somewhere beautiful.
As long as you respect the engineering.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final image from the source. It says, "The onion goes forever."
There is always another layer. You think you've reached Day 5. You think you've surprised God. Great. That is just day 1 of the next level. There is always another layer of self-deception to peel back. The life cone can always get bigger. The resonance can always run deeper.
And if you're sitting there right now thinking, I am not a messiah, I am not an aerospace engineer, I'm just tired. The sources give us a very simple, grounded place to start. It's called the bartender's rule.
When you're curious, bring them drinks more often.
It means action precedes understanding. You don't have to understand the complex math of variational free energy to lower it for someone else. You don't have to be a certified DER to create a moment of safety for a friend. You just have to bring the drink. You just have to do the dishes.
Go do the dishes before anyone asks.
That's the challenge. Surprise God today, and maybe, just maybe, double check your own landing gear while you're at it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.